So let's get this out of the way first before we really begin. No, as of this video's posting, I still have not watched one episode of the new revived 5th season of Phineas and Ferb. There are a number of reasons why I've been hesitant to do so. And one of them is, I'm really not sure what more they can do at this point. While I loved the original series from beginning to end, it did seem like they were running out of gas by the 4th season. Hence why a lot of the final episodes went out of their main setting, whether it was going into the past or the future, or Elseworlds tales like the Star Wars special. And I give Dan and Swampy all the credit in the world for still making those stories work so well. But it's clear they knew the 4th season was going to be it for them. And thus why they spent a lot of it tying up loose ends and building up everything to this one great conclusion. If I was to remake my old list of the greatest TV finales, Phineas and Ferb would likely come in 2nd place on that list. It turned out to be that spectacular. It was everything we could have possibly asked for and more to conclude this series. To show you all how, let's just get into Phineas and Ferb, the last day of summer. We open with a musical number right off the bat as Phineas, Ferb, and friends are zooming through town on hoverboards, and I'm not going to give the episode grief for not starting with Bowling for Soup because again, this just gives it more of a whole big event movie feel, just like the previous 2 specials we've reviewed. Heck, it comes off even bigger than Summer Belongs to You because we didn't get a full song to start that one. But I will say this does make me ask just which part of the country is the tri-state area actually in if it's this light out already before 6 a.m.? Are they on the border with Mexico or something? So the boys' big plan for the last day of summer is to build one giant tribute to everything they've done, I think. While Doofenshmirtz's scheme is to use the Tri-Governator to create the position of Tri-State Governor that he will run on unopposed for and thus legally become ruler of the Tri-State area. No present-day political comments, please. Of course, Candace is wanting this one last try to bust the boys, and of course it goes exactly like you'd expect.
Look, Candace, most days I would humor you, but not today. I'm way too busy. Don't you have stuff of your own to do before school starts?
Yeah, bust the boys!
Maybe hanging out with your boyfriend? Actually, I don't think we saw a lot of Jeremy in the 4th season. And I'm sure that had nothing to do with Mitchell Musso getting fired from Disney. Though to be frank, I don't think that's a bad thing. Nothing wrong with Jeremy, but we got what we wanted back in Summer Belongs to You by officially making them a couple. And almost anything after that would have had to involve some type of teen drama that I don't think fans of this show wanted. We know Candace and Jeremy are perfect for each other, and we definitely didn't need them becoming Ross and Rachel. Anyway, these schemes aren't really the driving force of this special. The real plot begins after Candace just gives up and goes to return some videos she borrowed from Vanessa, just as Doof and Perry are having their daily fight. Since Perry has to hide from Candace, he can't stop her from fiddling around with Doof's other innators, particularly the do-over-inator, which Doof openly states is meant to start the days over again. Sure enough, when Candace hits the switch, it's 6 a.m. that morning again, and she's fully aware that it has started over. And so has Doofenshmirtz because he was caught within range as well. Thus, both Candace and Doofenshmirtz realize they have the chance to keep trying over and over again the same day until they accomplish what they want. This leads to one of the absolute best songs the show has ever had. Yes, I'm ranking it right up there with Gitchy Gitchy Goo and Squirrels in My Pants. Again, don't get me wrong, all of this show's musical numbers were great, but they still felt like they were made for a TV show most of the time. This thing, much like what we got in Summer Belongs to You, just goes that extra length to make it feel like this is a full movie. More than that, it feels like a song that belongs in a finale, which makes it appropriately ironic when it also fits the underlying theme of the plot, about how we all wish the last day of summer would go on forever. And the shout out to Busted at the end just makes it even nicer touch.
I get it right today when tomorrow is this morning again.
So of course Candace never succeeds in busting the boys no matter how many chances she gets. But Doofenshmirtz does finally succeed in creating and becoming the Tri-Governor. So naturally, what he mostly does is use it to lord over his brother, Roger the Mayor. But of course, there have to be repercussions for all of this wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, as objects start disappearing from reality through rips in space and time. Right up to Phineas and Ferb disappearing themselves.
Mom! Phineas and Ferb are gone!
I'm sure it's going to be all right, dear, but who are Phineas and Ferb?
This is when you begin to realize that Phineas and Ferb weren't actually the focus of this final episode. And that actually makes sense because were they ever really the main focus of the show to begin with? Look, there was never anything bad about the characters of Phineas and Ferb. We're not talking Ally McBeal here, where the title character was so goddamn annoying that we needed the supporting cast to save the show. The boys and their inventions were always fun to watch. But when you think about it, they were pretty much plot devices. Let's face it. Candace, Perry, Doofenshmirtz, they were always the reason we tuned in all those years. Phineas and Ferb just kind of helped carry their stories. And that just shows how more brilliant the show really was. How the title characters weren't the best part of the show, but it still worked because of that. So now the second part is all about Candace and Doofenshmirtz having to figure out how to fix the collapsing space-time continuum. Or rather, it starts with Candace trying to figure out how to get Phineas and Ferb back, while Doof is all focused on being Tri-Governor, thinking it will keep Vanessa from moving out. Yeah, there was actually this side plot where Vanessa has actually accepted an intern program with Oka because she's basically tired of her dad's constant schemes that are really little more than trying to exact petty spite on anyone who angers him. And this is where it happens, my rowdy friends. Where we get maybe the biggest revelation of the entire series. When Vanessa Doofenshmirtz says the one thing that was hidden in plain sight from the very beginning.
You're basically a nice guy who's pretending to be evil. And you know, it seems like it's all out of obligation to your backstories, not something that truly comes from your heart.
How? How did we not get this until now? This was right in front of our faces, and we never saw it! The whole reason Heinz Doofenshmirtz has always been a terrible bad guy is he's not a bad guy! He's only thought he's been this whole time! And it's just so brilliant because it fits perfectly with so many people who love to watch this show. I mean, how many of you out there all wanted to be evil at some point? Because you weren't popular, or you never succeeded in where you wanted to be in life, and you just got so fed up with society and life that you wanted to just destroy everything and be the absolute ruler to get back at everyone who made your life miserable. But at the end, you could never do it because it's not in your nature. That's what the show has been trying to tell us for so long. We've all been Heinz Doofenshmirtz at some part in our lives. Heck, we've all been Candace at some point. At some point in time being obsessed with having to prove to everyone else that we're right and they're wrong. But the obsession never works out, and it only ends up hurting us and other people. There's a fine line between keeping on trying and doing it to the point of obsession. And that's what both Candace and Doofenshmirtz have to learn in the end. So now Doof believes the one way he can really win his daughter back is to fix everything and restore the space-time continuum. Which is a bit of a problem given that the Do-Overinator also got sucked into the void. So now he, with Vanessa and Perry, has to build an Undo-Overinator or something, while Candace and the others finally get to the boys in the rift and find the Do-Overinator itself. So now they have to get themselves and the machine back to reality and then push the self-destruct button to stop the looping. Which is more difficult because the looping is getting shorter and shorter, and that's what will eventually cause all of reality to collapse for good. Are we sure Russell T Davies didn't write this thing? And of course, the one person who finally figures out how to fix everything has to be Candace. Because this whole thing was about completing her story arc as well as Doofenshmirtz's. It shows one last time how Candace might have been an antagonist, but she was never a villain. She never wanted to hurt the boys. She never wanted to hurt anything. She always wanted to do what she thought was the right thing. And when she realizes what the right thing is, she never hesitates. So everything is restored to normal. Doofenshmirtz decides he might try being an Oka agent himself, even though that was a plot in the previous episode. And everything ends with one final big musical number that really is just an entire tribute to the entire series. And a huge thank you to all the viewers for tuning in for all of these episodes. No, Phineas and Ferb, Candace and Doofenshmirtz, Dan and Swampy, thank you for giving us the greatest summer of our lives. Every single thing that happens in Last Day of Summer is just the perfect way to finish off the entire series. In fact, it's the perfect conclusion to how the series itself evolved as a whole. Dan and Swampy took a concept that started as something clearly meant to be as goofy and insane as all those cartoons we watched as kids in the 80s, and it just became something bigger. It gave us all characters that we wanted to see succeed in some way, shape, or form at some point. It found a way to be crazy and epic at all the same time. And while the last bit at the end, maybe it did regurgitate that trite old "the real adventure was the friends we made along the way" message, it was appropriate to do so. Because our childhood really was about the memories we made with our friends. And that, more than anything, is why I just haven't been able to watch the new season. Because the original just ended so brilliantly. And it just feels like bringing it back arbitrarily risks ruining how great the original was. Maybe one day I'll give it a try and hope to be proven wrong in my fears. But for now, I've got a 16th anniversary special of my own to prepare for. Stay rowdy, my friends.